From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2228, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. In a dramatic rescue, amateur radio operators came to the aid of a sailing vessel set dangerously adrift in the ocean by engine failure off the Florida coast.
According to an account from the Maritime Mobile Service Network, Captain Ian Cummings, KB4SG, was piloting the Mystic Lady in the Atlantic Ocean about 40 miles off the Florida coast when the vessel's engine died and a strong current began pulling him back out to sea. His distance from shore made it impossible for him to reach help on any of the VHF marine frequencies. On 14.300 megahertz, he reached out to the Maritime Mobile Service Network, advising Net Control Operator Stephen Carpenter, K9UA, that he was in distress. The contact with Stephen and fellow Net Control Operator Robert Weinoff, K5HUT, came just as the captain reported he was now being pushed by the wind towards the South Carolina coast. Hours later, the Mystic Lady was close enough to shore to allow sea tow, which provides boat assistance, to assist with the ride back to port. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Dave Parks, WB8ODF.
If you live in the UK and you are planning to get rid of your AM and FM radios, think again. The plan to switch to fully digital radio from analog is getting a reprieve.
Regulators have announced that the planned switchover from analog to digital will be delayed until 2032. The original plan would have scrapped the analog broadcasts available on older receiving devices in favour of digital signals instead of the commercial analog licenses expiring in 2022. Ofcom will renew them for another decade on condition that the licensee also provides digital service. This delay marks the latest slowdown in the UK's switch to all-digital commercial broadcasting. It's estimated that 60% of radio listeners have made the leap to digital in the UK, but Ofcom recognises that there remains a strong loyal group of listeners to traditional AM and FM signals. The rules do not apply to BBC radio stations. Media Minister John Whittingdale told the Daily Mail that despite this accommodation of AM and FM listeners, there was still a long-term commitment to the continued growth of digital radio. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jeremy Boot, G4NJH.
Finally this week, we at Amateur Radio Newsline are celebrating a marriage. Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, and Julie Swigert exchanged vows on Saturday, July 11th in the Cincinnati suburb of Westchester, Ohio, and we could not be happier for the newlyweds. It was a long road to the front of the church for Neil and Julie as the COVID pandemic caused many delays and cancellations along the way. However, love always wins, and I'm honored to present to you Mr. and Mrs. Neil Rapp. Just before the ceremony, I had the honor of presenting the 2020 Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Newsline Young Ham of the Year Award to Christopher Bro, KD8YVJ. It wasn't at the Huntsville Hamfest, but at least I got to present it in person and to a great friend and deserving young radio amateur. It was a surprise to his parents, Jocelyn, KD8VRX, and Kim, as Chris decided not to tell them until I handed him the plaque. Double congratulations to Neil and Julie and to Chris Bro, KD8YVJ, our 2020 Amateur Radio Newsline Young Ham of the Year. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Dave Parks, WB8ODF, Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.